Okay, welcome to our first sprint meeting where we are going to define what first feature that we are going to build. So this is our sprint meeting that we are having, and we are going to decide the feature. And so whenever we say we are defining a feature, this is kind of the task that we are going to develop next. So we are going to add support in our sample web application that we created, which is kind of dummy for now. It is just serving this empty page, and it had one dummy questions API created, which is serving these JSON objects. Now we have to give a more concrete specification requirement for enhancing this application, so that gradually, incrementally, this application takes a full-fledged form of an MCQ backend engine. So we are going to define the feature called quiz capability. Our web application should have quiz capability, and this capability means different things for different people, because we know our role players are there. Then we can give a description. So this is the name of the feature. So here the description will be author of app should have ability to create the quiz that candidates can take. Now this is very brief discussion of what this feature is about, but this feature will consist of multiple scenarios in it. So features consist of scenarios. So one scenario will be, so we can say that author can create a quiz. So this is first scenario. Second scenario that we write is author can edit the quiz. Created by him. So if he has previously created any quiz, he can edit that, he can update that. Another scenario is scenario that author can schedule a quiz, which is kind of, he can give a start time, end time. Before that, users may not be able to take the quiz. So this will be kind of a hidden quiz before the time for the quiz comes. So okay, so author has the ability to create a quiz, to edit the quiz. Another is author should be able to see all quizzes created by him. Okay, so this is another scenario. Is there anything else that author can do? So mainly we think on the CRUD lines. He can create, he can retrieve, which is he can see all his quizzes, he can edit, he can update, and the last thing, he can delete. So we can say author can delete a quiz. So these are main requirements. So what we do, if we look at them, and let's say we define our sprint to be only 3 days. So we go and work on tight schedules, and we say only in 3 days we have to make all these scenarios up and running, and it should be stitched to the database, that whenever author creates something, that data should go and sit in the database, and whenever he is retrieving, it should come from the database. So this should not be dummy data anymore, because now we are developing, or we are entering the development sprint, and we should have the features working end to end and also tested end to end. Now developer team may say, like, these are too many scenarios to be done in 3 days with the team size that we have, since we are only 4 in number. So this may be too much. So in those cases, what we do, we deprioritize some of the scenarios. So this scheduling of the quiz is something we can deprioritize, and we can say, okay, this is something that we are moving out of the sprint, so we will put that here, and we will not be incorporating this. So this becomes our feature. This is our scenario. Next step that we have is these scenarios should be clearly defined, what a scenario should do, because otherwise there will be gaps remaining between what we want as an end user of this web application and what developer develops based on his understanding. In order to minimize these gaps, we typically do this behavior driven development. So behavior driven development says that your requirement should be defined in a way which can be consumed by both developer, tester, and a non-technical person in the team which is a customer who is defining these scenarios. So for this purpose, we are going to use Visual Studio SpecFlow. So I'll open Visual Studio here, and in Visual Studio we'll put these requirements, and these requirements, when we put there, they are called executable requirements using SpecFlow. So SpecFlow is a tool. So if we go here, we say SpecFlow and we search for it, then we'll get this website which tells what is SpecFlow, what are the, this says binding business requirements to .NET code. So version 2 released. This site has all the information about SpecFlow. It says first you make specifications, you write the requirements. So this is 3 easy steps. Then you automate the tests. So these requirements that we write, they are kind of test cases directly, unit tests that we can automate. So automate and then do the development. So since we write the test cases first and automate them first, this is called test driven development, and mainly using this approach of defining the spec which can be consumed by dev and test directly. This is called behavior driven development. Fair. So this is something that has to be referred to get more details of SpecFlow, and we will be using SpecFlow. Fair. So I have opened Visual Studio. Let's create a new project, and in project we'll go to Visual C#, and we will go to class library, and we'll name our project as, so we say ping0 dot, and we call it Q engine. So let's call it, this is quiz engine, so we'll say Q engine and dot. Okay, so I'll proceed with the Q engine project directly, and later on we'll create subfolders for development and requirements. Okay, so we have one project created in Visual Studio. If you look at the Solution Explorer, this is the structure of our project. So I simply go and delete this class1.cs because we don't need this file as of now. Well, so we are going to define our requirements. So the first thing that we will do is we'll right click here and we'll add a folder so that we can keep our specifications there. So I'll call this folder as specs, and this is where we'll keep our features and requirements. So we right click, we say add new item, and this item will be a SpecFlow feature file, and this feature file that we are going to create is depending on the first feature we are building, which is feature name is quiz capability, and we say go ahead, and this will create the first feature file. And we will notice that there is some syntax that we have to follow now, because this defines, SpecFlow defines certain keywords that we have to use in defining our feature and scenario. Now top portion of this is called feature header. So we have to write feature colon the name of the feature which we gave, and it has been automatically added. Then there is a feature description. So each feature begins with the title and a description. Now this description is a free form description, that's up to us how we want to write it. So there is no rule enforced over here. So we can say this is a feature, or rather than this, we should mainly define the roles who are going to use this feature. So authors and contestants will use this feature to host and compete quiz contests. So host is for author and compete is for contestant. Fair. So here we have defined our scenario, and it's up to us. In case we want to define it as a paragraph, we can do that, but we can keep it short and sweet and to the point. That will be more helpful. Now this thing that we have defined, that is given here as a template, it's called a tag. So I'm going to get rid of this for now. We'll go into the details of what tags are and where they are used later on. So I just got rid of that for the time being. Fair. So next is we have to define our scenario. So we listed few scenarios here. We said author can create a quiz. So now we are defining this feature ideally at a backend level. So this spec, I should have ideally named it quiz capability backend. That is our main feature that we are developing, because we are not developing it fully end to end. So this is a spec for the backend. So rather than saying author can, then here we will say, so we have to use some line here, which is again up to us how we want to call our scenario. So this will say list all quizzes. Created by me, and we can follow any syntax here in writing our scenario name. Then there is a keyword list that we have to follow. So these scenarios in SpecFlow, they go with 3 keywords called given, when, and then. Now the way to understand is, given is kind of the initial state of the system. Second, when is the action that we are performing currently, and then is the final state of the system. Now if initial state has multiple criteria over there, then we use another keyword called and to give multiple conditions for initial state. Now if we talk about what is a true example of given, when, and then if we say, let me paste it here, given I am on the home page of the website and I am logged in. So I'm giving one sample example. So if I'm given I'm on the home page of a website and I'm logged into the site, when I click, so if we talk about the Gmail as an example here, so let's talk about composing of email in Gmail, because this scenario we understand very well. Given I am on gmail.com and I am logged in, when I click compose button, then I should get the email compose UI. As simple as that. So this is one sample SpecFlow scenario with real example of Gmail. Same way, we may have to define all the requirements of our scenarios here, but these requirements are going to differ because we are defining the requirements not at a UI level. Here I'll say this is a UI requirement, the UI scenario that we are talking about. So Gmail compose mail UI scenario. But what we are going to define is, we are going to define only backend scenarios, because these are for API endpoints. So here we have to define multiple scenarios, and once these scenarios are defined, these are readable by the stakeholders who are non-technical. They can come and read because these are simply written in English. Only restrictions that we have to follow here is feature colon feature name should be there, scenario colon scenario name should be there, and in scenario any step that we write, they should be given, and, when, then, and there is one more but that we will cover later on. So these are the keywords that we have to follow. Now these requirements are the requirements coming from the end user or end customer point of view. So someone in the team who represents end user, who is going to accept or validate that system is developed as per the requirements, he will be using all these scenarios to validate. His end goal will be run all these scenarios and show me they are working. In case they are working, he is going to accept the system that it is developed currently. So this SpecFlow feature file that we have written, the first consumer is the person who writes this file, who is a representative of customer. Second, this file is used by the development team to develop the RESTful APIs, because this is going to clearly define what each and every scenario will contain, and that is what we will define in the next video tutorial. Then it also works as a requirement for defining the unit tests. So here itself we will see going forward that Visual Studio allows us to directly convert this SpecFlow file into code. So if we right click here, then we will see there is a option here. Okay, I think for that we will have to install 2 more things in the project. Fine, we'll do that later on. So there are 2 more dependencies that we need in the project in order to convert this feature file into the test code. So we'll see that in future. I hope in this video, whatever discussion we had, this is clear that we start with a sprint meeting, we define a feature file, and if we use SpecFlow as a tool for behavior driven development, then it has support for us which can bind the developers, testers, and the end customer together to agree upon a common set of requirements, building that and converting them into the test code. So this is the benefit of behavior driven development, which we are going to see in next set of tutorials. So thanks for watching. We'll meet in the next video again.